So welcome everybody to this Thursday guest seminar, outside term. We have quite a few participants who are joining online. So I just wanted to first introduce myself. I'm Manuel Eisner. I'm the director of the Institute of Criminology here at Cambridge. And it's my great pleasure and honor to welcome Professor Jianhong from the University of Macau today, who has been willing to come here and share some of his knowledge and experience with us on the relationism theory of criminal justice. And he will present to us some ideas about what he thinks is a necessary paradigm shift away from a Western-centric theory of criminal justice. I just wanted to say a few words on his background. Jianhong Liu is distinguished professor in the Faculty of Law at the University of Macau. He has authored and co-authored more than 200 academic publications. He's won a number of awards, including the 2016 Freda Adler Distinguished Scholar Award from the International Division of the American Society of Criminology. He has won the Miller Award of Distinguished Scholar of the International Section of the Academy of Criminal Justice Sciences. His co-authored book has won the 2022 Distinguished Book Award from the Asian Criminological Society and the 2022 Best Scholarly Publication Award from the Association of Chinese Professors of Social Sciences in the United States. Professor Liu has served in numerous leadership roles. By the way, when I say all these things, I think I'm just overwhelmed by how many different things Professor Liu is doing. It's just astonishing. So he served on numerous international academic organizations. He was the elected founding president and honorary president of the Asian Criminological Society. And by the way, I'm just to say, he is the person who actually created Asian criminology, with all the institutions that come with it, its own journal, its own association, regular events, and an identity as an association that is quite highly respected, very highly respected globally. He is the elected chairman of the General Assembly of the Asian Criminological Society and a member of the steering committee of the Campbell Collaboration's Crime and Justice Group and elected president of the Macau Society of Criminology. He's actively served the academic profession. He is editor-in-chief of the Asian Journal of Criminology. He is editor of the Springer series of Asian Criminology and Criminal Justice Research, and he's a member of editorial boards of more than 20 international academic journals, including a number of journals, for instance, the Journal of Experimental Criminology and the British Journal of Criminology. He's also serving expert on the Stockholm Prize in criminology, and he is grant reviewer, for instance, of the European Research Council, the council member of the World Economic Forum, a consultant of UNODC, and the East Asia and Pacific Center. So he has many, many important roles in international organizations. He is a leading scholar, a very productive scholar, and it's my great pleasure here to welcome Professor Liu here and to have the opportunity to learn from his research. Thank you very much. Can I just say one word? Sorry, for those of you who are joining online, there will be questions after the talk. If those of you who join online would like to ask a question to Professor Liu, please write it into the chat, and then I will make sure that we read the chat and we can also include those who are joining online into the questions and into the discussion afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. it's a great honor to be invited, to come to the Institute of Criminology here. I've known people in the institute for many years. For example, David Farrington, Friedrich Lossell. We've known those people more than 15 years. It's great friends. But this is the first time I come here in person. With Professor Manuel's invitation, it's a great honor to give this talk. I mean, in my view, Cambridge Institute of Criminology is the top institution in criminology globally. One of the characteristics that's special for the institute is that this is a global institute. You got to see the students' diversity, see the faculty diversity. It is not a typical Western institution. I would have to say that. That's one thing that makes me very excited, to come here to share with you some of the views that I've held for decades. I felt like Western criminology is has made great achievement. However, it has slowed down. I would have to say, when you submit a paper, let's say, to some of the top criminology journals, and you see comments that really, and you see some journals even specify how do you do criminology. I mean, it's not a good sign to me. I felt like there's so much you can do to take a lead here under the leadership of Manuel. To move criminology, to use the term we talked about, stage 2, so it's exciting opportunity, it's big challenge. One of the things you need to do to create a new school of criminology, you need a theory, right? You need a theory. It's like in physics, you need a theory of Newton's law, you need a theory of Einstein's law, right? Then to be able to code a new stage, right? So I cannot claim that my theory is that theory, but that is the effort I've been making. And here is actually the results has been already published, the paper. So let me enjoy this opportunity to be with all of you to see this, to introduce the ideas, the framework, right, of the theory to you today here. So I'll be talking about several things. One, I'm going to give you an introduction, which is going to talk about why do we doing this, What is the opportunity of doing that, right? What is the big question that facing the theory of criminal justice? The second, I'm going to talk about the current state. I'm going to give you a brief review of all the theories that is considered quite influential or famous, right, in criminal justice. I choose to talk about criminal justice theory because I saw the problems over there is more severe than the problems in the behavior theory of criminology. Okay. Now, and I think there's a problem with the paradigm, with how people do criminology theory. So I believe there should be a paradigm shift. What this shift is going to be from what I call monotonic paradigm to a comparison paradigm. Okay, I will explain to you what those means, right? I mean, we have a world leader of comparative criminology here. Manuel is the leader, on that. But we need to offer him a theory to construct a theoretical framework for comparative criminology. Sounds like very ambitious, but let me try to explain to you. I'd like to hear comments to see if my attempts makes any sense to you, right? So underneath of this title, Relationism Theories of Criminal Justice, that is the title I gave to this theory, right? We classify them into like three groups of concepts, right? We build a theory logically, empirically useful, and also, you want parsimony, right? You want testability, right? For theory, those are minimum or basic requirements you want to achieve. But think about it, such a huge theory. How do you, in the same time, to be comprehensive, to be universal, make a big word, universal. That is not something really easy to do. And how do you do that? What is the approach, right? Criminal justice theory is so numerous theories over there. How do you put them together to consolidate them into one theory that is parsimonious, testable, right? And also has a strong power of potential to explain various outcomes of criminal justice. So I put a set of concepts together, right, into three groups: actors and their character, concept of justice, and justice outcomes. And finally, I'll give some conclusion and discussion. I mean, frankly, I've been working on this for quite a few years. We put all the contents in there to elaborate all of them. It will be a big book, right? But then we try to condense them into like 10,000 words or even below. So that was a challenge. But here is the preliminary results. So I want to take this, opportunity, this honored opportunity to publish this theory, the first place. Institute of Criminology here in Cambridge. Right? Let me explain to you a little bit more details for each of the sections. Right? Let's go to the introduction. Okay. So academic criminal justice has been made great achievements and have developed into an independent discipline, primarily, however, in the United States and Europe. Criminology is always being in the United States, and I'm also myself trained in the United States for criminology, right? So that is the state of the situation. However, a major deficiency of the discipline I'm talking about is lack of a well-recognized general criminal justice theory. We do not have a general criminal justice theory. Okay. This is not what I said. I see all these top authorities, right? Bernard, an ego. Bernard actually was a good friend, many years ago. He just died. It's unbelievable. If you read ever the most authoritative textbook by Bernard is Theoretical Criminology, it's a book, right? But and then Cullen, he's still alive very well, right? And Debris is a guy who edited this huge criminology theory textbook, very influential. He's still current, right? And Hagen, everybody knows that's a very famous guy, right? Canadian person, right? And all these people, while they're making good progress in constructing a criminal justice theory, but they all concur a conclusion. That is, there's no such a general theory, invented or published or accepted by criminal justice scholars. Okay, so this is a major deficiency for any discipline without a general theory, particularly in science, right? And criminal justice teaching programs in the Western countries by default assume content of criminal justice theory is about crime and crime rates, which essentially is the subject of criminology theory. You go to any criminal justice school, you open their textbook for theory, and you see self-control theory, you see learning theory, you see all the theories that are not about criminal justice. Follow me, right? What is theory about criminal justice? It needs to explain criminal justice, right? Either the system or the institution or the institutional behavior or the professional behavior, let's say by police, courts, right? Judges, or by, let's say, all those criminal prosecutors, for example. You need to explain either their behavior or you need to explain the institutional properties, such as what we do today. Let's say what determines a police character, right? That would be a property that should be explained, right? There's no such a theory that explains all of these in a general theory systematically. Yes, we do have theories just talks about criminal, talks about police culture. We do have theories talks about behavior of a lawyer, for example, right? Or public opinion, like citizens' opinion. We do have theories, particularly in law, to explain, why the law is made, right? But there's no such a theory that cross all these levels of different, explanations. Follow me, right? Right? You don't have a theory that uniformly generalized to explain all these different levels, right? If you have any ideas about multi-level analysis empirically, you know what I'm talking about, right? You don't have a theory that cuts across multi-levels. I think that is what we would call, we could call, generalized criminal justice theory. Without that, I think we are still far away from the, objective of building a general theory. That's what I think, right? So the majority of introduction textbooks introduce criminology theory rather than criminal justice theory, because we do not really have a generalized criminal justice theory. And I will review, it's not like criminal justice scholars doesn't do theory, they do quite a few. I classify them into different groups. I try to explain to you by historical time and what has been done, right? And then you can see what I said is indeed supported by the literature, right? Most Western criminal justice scholars believe a theory is about criminal behavior because that's how they teach theory in criminal justice books, right? And which criminal justice research is about concrete and specific practical matters. That is the general situation you see in the student of researchers of criminal justice. So there's two significant difficulties in building a general criminal justice theory. The first is different from criminology theories. Criminal justice produces multiple outcomes at different levels, just as I mentioned, a minute ago, right? Criminology theory is easier to do in that sense because you explain crime risk, you explain criminal behavior, right? Then you see why people commit crime, right? Why crime risk goes up or down, right? Because you have one dependent variable, more or less, or let's say one group essentially closely related dependent variable, let's say, right? But in criminal justice, that is not the case. Criminal justice is a complex system and a complex process producing multiple types of outcomes at different levels. At the system level, that when we talk about criminal justice system, right? And at institutional level, when we talk about police, when we talk about courts, when we talk about prosecutions, for each of those institutions, they have their own behavior and various kind of behavior. Like let's say police behavior. We have Larry Sherman proposed criminal police behavior, right? The theory of police behavior, but that is not the general theory for criminal justice because that is only for police, right? It's not even for judge, not even for corrections, right? Not to mention, it is for criminal justice system or for criminal for individual behaviors relates to criminal justice, right? So the dependent variable of general criminal justice theory are by necessity the various kind of outcomes of criminal justice processes or behaviors at multiple different levels. This sounds like almost impossible, right? Right? Yes, indeed. Criminal justice scholars have been trying doing that, and until 20 years ago, they stopped. Then they decided that there's no way to create a theory of criminal justice. Okay, this is impossible. Hopeless. But there are other people propose. There are people who do not give up their ambition but propose different ways of doing that. But mostly they're claiming that you have to do it like cumulative. I'll introduce a series to it in a moment, right? However, little attention has been devoted to developing general theory that uniformly explain multiple outcomes across multiple levels of criminal justice. This is very important to me, right? The second major deficiency is that the scopes of existing theory largely originated from a Western context and data. You see, all this work has been done in criminal justice profession is originated from either based on data from the United States or data from Europe. Cultural variation has not been really considered. However, no one can ignore cross-cultural variation when you talk about criminology or criminal justice. You see the criminal justice system in China, criminal justice in Russia, criminal justice in India, so much different from criminal justice in the United States. Even in the United States, there's a huge variation from different states. Even there's when we use the word Western, it is not homogeneity, right? You can see that the U.S. System is very different from a European system, right? In many ways. So this cultural variation has very little been addressed. But think about it, you're talking about multiple levels, different types of outcomes. And you are also talking about wide, variation across space, right? So how is it possible at all to create a uniformly integrated general theory? So that is why, the influential criminal justice has been devoted both on past and context without innovatively addressing the character variation. A theory cannot be truly generalized in scope across different character contexts. Okay, so this is two big challenges. So how large the challenge can be, how large the challenge is it possible at all to make a attempt to sort of like create a truly general theory that overcomes those two major deficiencies? So there's a lot of criticism saying this is a crazy idea to create a grand theory, right? And there's also the people try to create grand theories 20 years ago. However, most people today stop doing that. People are not being possible, practical, or useful. Since this is not useful, not possible, not practical, and being too remote. Say the theory will be too remote from criminal justice practices, too abstract, or lacking in practical guidance for specific studies or day-to-day criminal justice operations. That was generally, accepted conclusion. Okay. Howard and Friedrich in 2007 cautioned against grand theory. So grand theory is something impossible, right? It's over, right? We should give up, And then Black has a social legal theory. I think that is more familiar by most of you. Black theory is often cited as an example of unpractical grand theory, Black's theory, right? And Gibbs-Reed et al. Commented that it may be very premature or even misleading and dangerous to search for a theory that explains all criminal justice responses at all times. Okay, so this is pretty much accepted conclusion among criminal justice theory scholars today. So he continues, says this was a false hope. Indeed, there often appear to be very different explanations for individual level phenomena and those occurring at higher levels. So this is talking about a challenge from multi-level outcomes, right? Different level have different explanations. That perhaps the only right way to go, according to Gibbs-Reed. Okay. So, what to me, I think dismissing the value of a general grand theory, a general causal theory is a mistake. Okay. The general theory has unique value to me. Okay. It will, first of all, the level of maturity in any discipline is characteristically reflects in its degree of achievement in general causal theory, even though that's very hard to do, very difficult. But you cannot dismiss its importance, right? It is useful. One argument I would like to make is general causal theories provide information and perform many functions that a specific theories cannot perform for the discipline. They reveal patterns and discover critical knowledge that specific theories do not discover. I'm not saying specific theories are not important. They are important. They are practical. They focus on specific practice of specific field, and then they have good explanations, empirically connected to the grounds, right? To the practice, right? And they have their use. However, a grand theory or an integrated general theory has its own unique usefulness. As I said, it reveals general patterns that a specific theory will not reveal. That is why we need, that's one reason that we need a grand theory. But we should not be discouraged by continuing this idea. Look at the science, look at the natural science, without Newton's theory, there'll be no industrial revolution, right? Without Einstein's general theory, there will not be nuclear physics, right? Without all these theories, without the continuing effort by natural scientists in their fields to stick for general theories, many important discoveries will not happen. So that's why we, even though facing big challenges, difficulties, we should not give up building general theories. Okay. So the present paper proposed a paradigm shift. Why we propose a paradigm shift? Because the shift, the methodology, the ideas, the paradigm is not right in building a general theory. Used in the United States and Europe up to now are used by criminology theorists. That's my personal opinion, right? We need to shift the paradigm. Okay, why I'm talking about that? In the explanation of the theory, following explanations, should see that first of all, this paradigm that we use typically in the criminology theory building, or even the criminology enterprise, hypothesis testing, and dependent variables, independent variables. How do we overcome endogeneity, right? Co-founding factors, and so on and so forth. Looks to me is belongs to a paradigm. I would call it monopoly paradigm. Wow. The major thing is that it looks at a one line of process rather than two line of process, which are contrasting. If you are Chinese, you understand what I'm talking about. I'll give you an idea. Okay, in the Chinese philosophy from ancient times, we talk about yin and yang, right? The toys, right? Yin and yang. In Buddhism, we also talk about similar ideas, right? That idea is valuable, but that has been ignored by this Western criminologist. People see crazy how do you bring yin and yang ideas into criminology. Let me explain to you, right, how that helps us. That's why we're doing Asian criminology, as I explained to you, Manuel today at lunch. Asian criminology is not just you're doing criminology in Asia. It is the insights you get from the Asian context you would not get from a Western context. That insight is that there are many things that goes two lines, not one line. Yin and yang, follow me? They both work together. They interact with each other. Is that like a crazy idea, right? But I'm showing you that those crazy ideas can actually come into some empirical forms that can help us to understand empirical practice, right? Can help us to understand police behavior, can help us to understand judges' behavior, can help us understand how social workers work with their clients. It sounds like very abstract, like many grand theory appears to be. But I will try to show you if it indeed works. Okay? But of course, there's a lot of work to do to make that really empirically possible. In fact, I want to tell you, after I proposed this theory 2 or 3 years ago, I had a PhD student collect data from Chongqing for about 3,000, face-to-face, data collection, right? And in that questionnaire, of course, it's my questionnaire, right? We designed it to use yin and yang, I'm just using yin and yang now. But later on, I'm going to tell you what is exactly yin means, what exactly yang means. And then we discovered empirically yin and yang has independent effects. Then they combine to produce criminal justice opinions from citizens. So we have empirical evidence here. It's not yet published yet, but I can excite you about those crazy ideas. That's what I want to do today, right? Okay. So we want to do a paradigm shift under this new paradigm. Outliers. I want to outline a general theory that aims at uniformly explain multiple outcomes of criminal justice. As I said, there's at least 3 levels, right? Criminal justice system, criminal justice institutions, behaviors of justice professionals, right? Behavioral opinion, right, of justice professionals at very different levels, right? The conventional multi-level analysis, is connected to all this theory to make it empirically, potentially, very practical, testable, right? Okay. So I'd like to briefly review the current state of criminal justice theory. I want to show you that what I said is true, based on the literature. First, the research condition based on Western data has produced many specific explanations for specific aspects outcomes with a particular justice agency such as police, courts, and corrections. Now, you look at the criminal justice books, right? Theories talk about police, police legitimacy, for example, right? Procedural justice, for example, right? Those are talking about police behavior. And then you also have a lot of small theories about corrections, right? How correction works, right? And also courts, right? Much less than the police and corrections, which is a huge literature. But there are works explain judges' behavior, right? Why judge do this? Why judge doesn't do that? And then you can see judges in constant conflicts in his mind about yin and yang. Follow me? He's never been making a straightforward application of law that tell you, here's the decision, I declare it's simply based on this law, this explanation of the law. That is never happened, right? If you work with judge, you see that always, we have someone who is working as prosecutor in India, right? I talked to Ashley, right, this morning, right? We are excited, are we, right? About those ideas, right? How do we explain prosecutors' behavior? Follow me, right? Well, you will find, I can anticipate, among all cases of prosecutors, 500 or 400, whatever, right? If you interview them, you're going to find there have been constant conflicts in their minds to make that decision. Follow me, right? One conflict is from the idea of, let me use that word, Chinese yin, The other idea is from the Chinese idea, yang, right? Actually, India has so much cultural similarities with Chinese. I just went back from India 2 weeks ago. I had a conference there talking about intimate partner violence against. I was invited to give a keynote speech. They treated me so well that it's like look at all these temples that's so ancient, and you admire so much when you go in there. That's the culture. The culture is so different from what you see here. Years ago, when I went to India for a national criminology conference, and then one of their, I was the equivalent to a governor in the United States, right? This guy coming, it's called state secretary, something like that. He's an official, right? He's interested in criminal justice, of course, state secretary. He just directly held all the audience, right? When something happened in a village, right? Let's say a husband, two neighbors fight, right? Then one neighbor killed the other neighbor, right? Okay. What they do is not to report to police. Is that interesting? Because if you report it to police, then what police do, they can almost anticipate based on the past experience and the law. For this such a case in the past, on average, this person will be locked into a prison for 14 years, right? But what they're doing in their panchayat, right, in their village, is to get these two families together, get the village together, and get elderly, get prestigious family together. Then they decided that this person needs to raise the wives and children, right, of that victim family for 14 years. That's their decision, judgment, right? And then what happened is after 14 years, he continued to raise his family. This is their justice. They cannot the Western standard justice, right? We cannot ignore that. We cannot go to India and tell you people are all wrong. You people are all wrong. You're not following the law. I think they're following the concept of justice in their panchayat. They're not following the concept of justice prevalent in Western that we were told. Follow me, right? And just give you a very, very simple story to tell you the wide variation, cultural variation. They're true, they're real. Their decisions influence people's life, for a long time. We cannot ignore that, right? Right? So all of that hints to me that we need a theory that is universal, that can be useful for Indian police, for Indian judges, Indian prosecutors, also useful for Western judges, Western prosecutors. That's not easy, right? That's challenging, but I'm trying to find an approach to do that, right? But the basic idea behind that, let's use this simple analogy. Is yin and yang. You have two processes going on instead of one process that all these independent variables explains all these dependent variables. No, that is not what really is going on. This is the idea. This is the basic idea, right? Okay, so some of those past research theories focus on patterns of daily operations. Some focus on explaining special cases or emphasize applied side of criminal justice research, but limited effort has been seeking generalization. It most prominently reflect widely adopted framework that organize specific criminal justice theories into three categories of police theory, court theory, correction theory. An excellent example is that of Macau and Dufresne, and they're just in their textbook, very widely used. The first edition, I think, is 2015, right? And then tell people that criminal justice theory has to be classified into the three groups. There's no such a theory that could cross all three groups because too much differences, too much differences in the history or in the process of going on at each different level. Okay. To some extent, I think their contributions are great. They're telling you something very practical, useful. But I disagree with them. They totally think generalized theory is not possible. Hopeless should be given up, even dangerous. That is part I disagree. So, what are the current state of criminal justice theories? Police studies has been the major area. Okay, Sherman's police behavior theory in 1980. Sherman is a member of our institute. We should be proud that we have all these top scholars are doing that, right? A recent influential theory is Tyler's police legitimacy theory. We have scholars publish about legitimacy theory from the institute, right? And various specific aspects of correction have also been received a large amount of research attention. For example, Eric Lambert and his collaborators significantly contribute to the understanding of correction staff behavior and its consequences. Researchers have also adopted theories from other disciplines to create criminal justice theories. Two prominent studies have provided explanation for discrepancy between officially expected behavior and behavior in reality. Okay. One is Free. In 1973, they adopt organizational theory to explain behavior of criminal justice officials in terms of rational goal versus functional system. So they have started to notice that there's two processes going on, right? Then one is expected, goal, right? A functional system. The other is rational goal. You have to really do a rational decision. Makes sense, right? So the theory highlights the importance of comparison in understanding behavior of criminal justice officials. Now, the key word here that I want to highlight is the comparison. People start to recognize comparison is very important, playing a major role in the theory. Parker, is also very famous theorist. In 1958, he used due process versus crime control model to point out two conflicting orientations in the day-to-day criminal justice practice. Parker's approach also recognized comparison. Again, comparison is essential in understanding day-to-day practice. Okay, getting back here. Okay. Generally, the Western research tradition has formulated important questions and guided many familiar lines of study. I have to say, I'm criticizing, but I'm not denying the contributions of all these theories, the usefulness of all these theories, right? However, the approach commonly shared by criminal justice theory does not consider seeking generalizability beyond specific areas, agencies, topics, across different institutional levels, justice outcomes. For those who do appreciate building general theory-based approach, what is the approach is advocated by those people in criminal justice theory building, to tell us how to build general theory, right? They said you have to first accumulate over a long time a number of specific theories or explanations within a specific area, such as police, courts, or corrections, so as to eventually accrue enough to enable possibility for general theory. Standard representative is Bernard and his student Engel, right? And De Vriend is the person who is criminal justice textbooks is very influential, widely used today. Okay. Following the route of developing higher level generalization two most important contributors has been provided by Bernard and Karaska. Okay, so these two persons are the person who did not give up building general criminal justice theory. Bernard Eagle pointed out, after 50 years, a great deal of research was accumulated along with the increasing number of relatively specific theories to interpret the research. Despite some movement to generalize theories, little progress has been made in formulating criminal justice theories per se. So this is his conclusion, published in 2001, 23 years ago, right? That was the conclusion. So general theory has not been made, much progress. And Bernard proposed a conceptual framework to how to do general theory. He pointed out we should categorize and generalize criminal justice theories. How do they categorize? They use dependent variable to classify research topics. And then they use independent variable under respective dependent variable to classify explanations. This is the methodology they use. So they laid out a framework of cutting across components of criminal justice system and move towards formulating a general theory. So you got what they're trying to do, right? So there's a dependent variable, and then each dependent variable is a group of things, right? Then they classify the same dependent variable together, and then they find different explanations of the dependent variable considered as different, series, but they groups together. Okay. So another important contribution was made by Peter B. Graska. Okay, that was in 2006. First proposed in 2004. If you're talking about 2004, it's already 20 years past. And this is actually the last effort, He's a guy who did not give up creating general theory. He said he criticized a theoretical nature of criminal justice research and pointed out studying criminal justice is tacitly and sometimes explicitly relegated to the narrow role of evaluating and descriptive scholarships. So if you see research in criminal justice, you find, yes, a lot of descriptive work, right, or evaluation work. So see if this program works, if that program works, yes, but that is very important work, but that is not general theory. So he proposed that to move forward to a general theory, it is important to categorize existing work into theoretical orientations. Okay, so classify specific criminal justice theories and literature into 8 theoretical orientations, targeting criminal justice phenomena, and proposed a scale to explain those 8 orientations. So while this is a valuable increase in understanding of meaning underlying specific theory, it does not really provide any testable hypothesis. It's talking about orientations. It's not even talk about follow me, right? So it's not really testable. And the framework does not suggest how it should be applied to explain multiple specific outcomes of criminal justice system. Now, that is really criminal justice different from criminal behavior, multiple outcomes. The theory doesn't do that. Okay, so the limitation of current efforts, right? The efforts generalized are commendable, but have not led to a general theory. That is the conclusion over 20 years, almost 20 years now, right? Nor do this theory address 2 considerable difficulties I just mentioned. Multiple level outcomes, right? Actually, on each level, there's multiple outcomes too, right? And then cultural variation, The theories in the West mostly works quite well with some of the theories, right? In guiding practice. However, there's no guarantee that works in other different cultures. As I just give you an example, right? Prosecutors in India will think a little differently, or maybe very differently, from the Western prosecutors, right? The prosecutors the judges or the police officers, they behave very often very differently. I talked to Justice this morning, very interestingly. I totally agree with him. We have theories talking about procedural justice. We talk about people is worried about is the procedure fair, right? Procedure has to be consistent to be fair. But if you go to Ghana, right, you find people worried much more than that, right? In terms of their safety, protection, right? Most of them, if the procedure is consistent across people. So that's very interesting, right? And also, these efforts have not led to a general theory, nor do they address the two considerable difficulties to build a general theory, which I just mentioned at the beginning of the paper. One is the multi-level, different outcomes, many outcomes, rather than like in criminology theory, criminal behavior theory. Crime is the dependent variable, right? Now we have so many different dependent variables. How do we put them together into a general theory? The second is character variation. How do we build a theory that simplifies, essential things in different character, right? What are the things that always exist in different characters? If you don't find that, you cannot build a uniformly generalized theory, right? So result of those efforts, I've mentioned two efforts, right? Both of them, if you look at carefully, they're pretty much summarizations and classification schemes. They are not theories. Theory supposed to be causal. Theory is supposed to be explaining, right? Theory is supposed to offer relative strengths, right? Effect size, for example, right? Theory is supposed to have power, right? But those classification schemes does not do that, right? In fact, more than 1.5 decades passed, actually should say almost 2 decades passed. These two frameworks were proposed. I mentioned, last slide. No attempts has been made to show new promises to produce theories that provide unified general explanation across different levels of criminal justice outcomes and cross-character variations. So facing these two big challenges, pretty much criminal justice theory building has been stagnant, right? Of course, small theories being produced, being applied all the time, but creating a general theory is considered hopeless, useless, unpractical, right? Okay. So lack of promise, permissive progress essentially reflect the limitation of, I would say, existing paradigms of criminal justice theory and research. Though the literature in non-Western context has rarely been reviewed in our literature review, we don't see much mention of criminal justice work by non-Western scholars. Okay. Particularly some of the scholars using non-English to write, of course, it's much less possible to be included, right? Okay. So I think some progress is relevant and suggests important insights. For example, comparative criminology, again, it tends to reveal large scope and more awareness of variation across different countries. One paper I would recommend is Professor Manuel's paper in the Handbook of Criminology, right? It's actually the Oxford Handbook or Cambridge Handbook. Cambridge.
No, Oxford.
Oxford Handbook. Yeah, I would have to say, that's a paper everybody should read. In my mind, I would have to say, criminology has to be comparative. That's my belief. Comparison is age-old, most essential methodology to learn insights in all fields. Follow me, right? So, but what Professor Mayfield did is something extremely meticulous summarization and review of all comparative data and difficulties and achievements from different groups of work. That's very helpful if you want to do criminology. So you need to know what comparative criminology is. Without comparison, it's very hard to reach, to get insights. Okay. So they provide all this literature mentioned to you has provided ample evidence and that cultural variation implies discrete contexts concerning aspects of justice, particularly between Western and non-Western societies. Okay, so we use the word Western and non-Western. Well, why do we use that? Why should we see Western, non-Western? Or why should we see Asia versus, America? Why do we see that? Because we just observe too much major differences between these two sides of the comparison. Follow me, right? Okay, that's why we use this. Why these words were mentioned repeatedly, right? However, I want to emphasize to you, Western, non-Western, either side is not homogeneous. I mean, within Western, there's so much variation, right? Europe is different from America. Follow me, right? Within Europe, you see so many variations. If you attend European Society conferences, so many variations, right? Within Europe, even, right? Non-Western is not homogeneously a place, right? In Asia, let's say, there's so many different Asian countries. You have Hinduism, you have Confucianism, you have, there's so many variations. However, this two group has been recognized, perhaps as a larger, discrete gap, right? That's why we classify this into Asia, this including Western. Follow me, right? That's why we have this perception of Western versus non-Western. So it is true that within each of these groups, there's a large amount of heterogeneity, right? However, there's quite a bit of homogeneity too, right? So we have to recognize what the reality is, what the life is, what the justice system is distributed to be able to model them accurately. Follow me, right? To be able to stereotype them correctly, right? Accurately. Okay. So some comparative studies also show innovative line of thinking in terms of causes and process that leads to certain outcome of justice. Recent literature review has pointed out Asian criminologists have started to develop a new series. This new series has been mentioned, in the literature review series of relational justice, okay, and Asian paradigm theory, and relational theory, and relationism theory. All these, pieces over years, being making progress. John Griswold, I think many of you know him, quite, familiar with his work, and his commented that the hope is that they may be useful by constructing the kind of relational theory of crime control advocated by Liu, which is me, right? And that is published in John Griswold's paper in 2015. So from 2015, we already proposed quite a few things, right? But this paper I'm presenting to you is almost like the, stage, right? Where the theory is coming into systematic format, right? It is the right time developing terminology, right? Asia to move away from an international division of scholarly labor, whereby influential theories are developed in the West, while Asia's role is apply testing those theories in Asia contexts and adapt them to Asian realities. he said we should move from the division of labor, right? It is time for a new era of criminological theory that was given birth in Asia by Asian scholars. I talked about Asian criminology. Why do we do that? Right? This is really an excellent, perspective from John Lewis, which is not Asian, right? Which is a Stockholm Prize winner, and he's in Australian University. Okay. Cross-cultural differences implies variation in objectives of justice and justice process. So actually, what is the concept of justice? What is justice? This is a very essential idea, right? Actually, it has cross-cultural variations. What is justice, right? And also, what is justice process, right? There's a lot of variations, right? All of that has to be dealt with, and there's million informations on there, but it is important to summarize them, figure out a way that can very simplified, right? Testable, parsimonious. Again, it's a real challenge, but we try to do that. So summary: two considerable challenges building a truly general theory have not been solved or even not addressed, right? Existing effort to best achieve a different summarization category scheme. That's pretty much what has been done 20 years ago in the United States, right? It's not leading to any really real series. A paradigm shift is necessary to compass, to encompass both insight from the West and non-West, right? Making progress in seeking higher level of generalization in criminal justice theory building. So this is what I want to do. Okay. I've given a lot of detailed explanations about all these criminal justice theories, but it takes so much time. But anyway, let me move a little bit, perhaps faster. I think the paradigm has been used in the Western. It's called the monotonic paradigm. It focuses on a single type of justice outcome as its dependent variable, and it modeling it using a set of supposedly mutually separate causal processes or a set of items associated with justice outcomes or dependent variable. Okay, so this is oversimplified description of this monotonic paradigm, but essentially so, right? Even though you add some intermediate explanations, mediating variables, but essentially this is the framework. Culture scope has to be within a Western context. People talk about culture, but it's not cross Western, non-Western. So this approach promises little to overcome two major difficulties faced by the efforts of building a general theory. So a new cross-disciplinary search for candidates of fundamental far-reaching causes and process will be necessary. Because you're talking about some causes that so far-reaching, otherwise there's no possibility to be integrated, right? To integrate all these different ideas, right? And reconceptualizing key concepts and developing new concepts will be necessary. So that's what this theory is trying to do. So we try to propose a new paradigm and new conceptual set of concepts and propositions to organize this theory. Okay. So cross-disciplinary and reconceptualization. One literature is about personality in psychology. It is interdisciplinary studies of culture and other important literature, right? So the wide implication of cultural variation of concepts can suggest significant influence on justice behavior and multiple justice outcomes. So we should go beyond current Western force to also consider Eastern wisdom. Okay, to take the challenge, cultural variation for building a general theory, it is necessary to examine comparative literature to identify nature and primary characteristics of those variations. So as I try to see, there's a major two groups, even though they are not homogeneously, Western versus non-Western, let's say, right? Western versus Asian. Each group is not a fully homogeneous group. However, this sharp contrast has been mentioned by literature, all the time. So this discrete contrast needs to be modeled into the theory, right? And also, the underlying causal process also needs to shift from this monotonic paradigm, right? It has to reflect this comparative in structure, in the theory structure, this comparison needs to be reflected. So that is a new paradigm. So I call it a new paradigm is with ambition to build a highly general theory that captures the reality of cross-cultural variation and cross-national scope, explain multiple justice outcomes at different levels. This is the new paradigm has to do that, has to have the promise of doing that, right? Has the potential to organize criminal justice research and derive testable sub-theories and explanations for many specific criminal justice outcomes and topics. So it's a huge demand, right? Under the new paradigm, the justice phenomenon are better viewed as a set of contrasts, paired causes and process. This is the key idea. You need a new paradigm that include a set of contrast paired ideas, not one dependent variable. It has to be paired, not one process. It has to be paired process. The paired process explains the outcomes of criminal justice at different levels, right? So with this new paradigm, the theoretical building blocks are paired and concepts and paired propositions for paired causal process. So as I mentioned, like yin and yang, an analogy, right? So the paired causes leads to paired consequences or paired justice outcomes. This is the basic comparison paradigm. Okay. So comparison paradigm is comparison-based modeling approach, right? It captures the cultural variation. Because on the top, it's going to be yin, on the bottom, it's going to be yang, right? On the top is a process that's contrasting with the bottom process that works together. This is very different from the conventional paradigm, one dependent variables, multiple independent variables. That's monotonic paradigm, in my view, right? Okay. So this new paradigm, sounds like, very unfamiliar, right? But, we try to make it testable and we try to see what is the potential, right? So the aim is to provide a unified, consistent causal explanations across system level organizations, individuals to achieve high level of generalizability, reasonable level of parsimony and testability. Okay? So we have to adopt far-reaching causes. You cannot be very specific, very concrete causes. You have to be some causes that is far-reaching because you want to integrate so many differences together, right? What are these kind of causes? I would single out one. We need to look at psychology. We need to single out a causes. I would say personality traits. Of course, the personality traits I'm using is different from psychologists already discovered personality traits in many of them. Right? And once we use a new different personality traits, I think to summarize a rich range of essential things that can be used to explain as a far-reaching causes. The other thing is culture, right? Culture is an idea that we heard so often, so many times in criminology research, but encounter so many difficulties, right? Some people think culture doesn't explain anything, right? So there's so much work needs to be done to use those terms. And the theory needs to be a multi-level structure. So that would make the hypothesis testing pertinent in specific research situation and practice, right? So I proposed the theory called relationism theory of criminal justice, which aims to be very highly general and overcomes the limitations of other grand theories has been proposed or criticized. So what are the central themes of the theoretical framework? The three groups of concepts. And one group is called justice outcomes. Justice outcomes, as I said, system level, institutional level, and individual level, right? And then they are going to be explained from concept of justice. There's a pair of concepts of justice. One is called relationist concept of justice. The other is called individualistic concept of justice, right? It's two pairs of concepts of justice instead of one pair. You know, whenever you learn justice, people tell you there's only one justice for all. Follow me, right? Right? Justice. Oh, go look at the law literature. This will amaze you how many people talk about justice, right? The regretful thing is lawyers never talks about testability. You know? They don't do empirical work. Follow me, right? But conceptually, I would have to say concept of justice is not a unified concept. That's really reflect variation of culture. Okay. Of course, this is such a variation. How do you patch the major variation? A single of the two concepts. One is called the relational concept of justice. The other is individualistic concept of justice. Okay. So they're together to explain much more than just many other concepts you can propose, right? And then culture, as individualistic culture versus relational culture. Those are the major concepts that explains the concept of justice. Individualistic concept of justice is explained by individualistic culture, and the relationism concept of justice is explained by the relationist concept of relationist culture. They are held by separate populations. One population is relationist population, the other is individualistic population. Right? So, and then further, these populations are defined as aggregates of relationist personality traits and individualistic personality traits. If you look at psychology, we talk about personality traits and don't talk about this kind of concepts. You know? So we sort of like believe those concepts is simple and covers so much explanative power. Okay? So this is the scale of the theory. As you can see, right? You look at the outcomes here, right? The most important thing, mixed outcome at different levels. So any outcome is a mixed outcome. It's not one dependent variable, right? This dependent variable is a mixed outcome. Okay, what is that mixed? It is mixed by let's say relationist concept of justice. If that is more than individualistic concept of justice, then you have an individualistic inclined individualistic proportionately larger outcomes. If the relationist concept of justice takes more weight, relative weight, then you have outcomes which is more relationist. I'm not sure if you got me what I'm trying to say, but you can see there's two causal processes going on, right? This concept of justice is explained by the population and culture, and it's explained by the personality traits. So this is a causal process. And here, individualistic personality traits, individualistic population and culture, and individualistic concept of justice, it's the, if this is the yin and this would be the yang. Follow me, right? The two paired causal process combined together to explain mixed outcomes of the different levels. This is the essence. Of course, there are so many things that determines relationist personality, including relationist culture tradition, right? You see history, you see, different culture, and you see social organizations, right? And those are the contextual variables, right? And nature of social organization, personal context, those are also control variables that influence the relationist personality traits and individualist personality traits. So this is pretty much the framework of the theory. Okay, it's so many new concepts, right? But I have solid basis on for each of them. It's not like a random proposed concept. Okay, it has to accomplish so many tasks. First of all, it has to be simple. You cannot have too many concepts in there, right? So you have to invent new concepts that can cover the functions of many concepts together, right? So I pick up the two most important, essential relationist versus individualist. I believe the mix of these has, the simplest form of explanation explains wide range of outcomes. Okay. So this is the essence of the theory. So you might see, how do you, what is that? I have definitions, we distribute the tables, right? Yeah, if you want to see the details, yeah, you have the table you can pick up, you have already prepared, secretaries, right? But the basic idea is this, right? Each of the concepts already defined, of course I can give you many literature to demonstrate, to justify my creation of this concept and how they work, right? It's like over so many years, as you can see, this coming into such a situation, right? So basically, this is what the theory looks like, right? And later on, actually, the structure of the theory and groups reflect the three stages of the whole causal process. The first group is actors and their characters, including relationist personality and individualistic personality, relational culture, individualistic culture, and relational population and individualistic population. So this is population and culture, right? Those are the far-reaching processes, very far-reaching. That's why their influence could be possibly, giving effects on very final outcomes. The outcomes could be police behavior, could be drug behavior, or could be systematic or system characteristics. You need those very far-reaching explanative variables to do so many things, right? And also the second group is relationist concept of justice. That's very okay. The people just have different ideas about what justice is. That idea is influenced by the relationist culture versus individualistic culture. And then finally, the together influence justice outcomes, which has different levels. Okay. So roughly speaking, this is the theory. Follow me, right? Right? I can go into a lot of details to explain, but given the limited time, I could send you the paper if you have the interest to digest them. There's no problem, right? So pretty much this is what the theory looks like. The rest of the PowerPoint is just show you what each variable, what each concept is. So this is the theory. Of course, maybe it's a good idea for you to read some questions and then try to get into where people think is most confusing part, right? It's an effort, it's very ambitious, but like I talked to Manuel, we like to do ambitious things. We like to do things that looks almost impossible, right? That's very exciting. That makes you working here over 12 o'clock. You don't go home because you're excited, right? That is what we do. Okay. I guess I'll stop my talk here. So,